In the heart of Lagos, amidst the bustling streets and ceaseless noise, stood a small church. Its pastor, Reverend James Adeyemi, was a man of great charisma and profound oratory skills. Known for his fiery sermons and unwavering faith, he had transformed the modest church into a beacon of hope for the community. Yet, beneath the surface of his seemingly unshakable faith lay a growing ambition that gnawed at his soul. Reverend James was a man in his late 40s, tall and broad shouldered, with a commanding presence. His deep voice resonated with authority, and his piercing eyes seemed to see into the depths of one's soul. Despite his popularity, his heart was troubled. He desired more than what his humble church could offer. The dream of building a mega church, complete with all the grandeur and influence that came with it, consumed him. It all began one fateful evening when Reverend James, feeling the weight of his unfulfilled ambitions, wandered into a deserted part of town. As he strolled along the dimly lit streets, he encountered the mysterious figure cloaked in darkness. The man introduced himself as Mr. B, a wealthy benefactor interested in helping religious leaders and expand their ministries. Mr. B was a peculiar man. His features were sharp and almost ethereal, with eyes that glimmered with an unsettling intensity. His voice was smooth, almost hypnotic, as he spoke of the possibilities awaiting Reverend James should he choose to accept his help. All it takes is a small favor in return, Reverend. Mr. B said with a sly smile. You will have all your mega church, a congregation that spans continents and influence beyond your wildest dreams. Reverend James hesitated, feeling a chill run down his spine, but the allure of his dream being fulfilled was too strong to resist. He agreed to Mr. B's proposition, dismissing any doubts as mere superstition. After all, he reasoned, wasn't he doing this for the greater good? The changes were almost immediate. Funds poured into the church from unknown sources, allowing for rapid expansion. A grand cathedral replaced the small church, and Reverend James' sermon began to attract thousands. He was invited to speak on television and at international conferences. His influence grew, and with it, his ego. Yet, as the church flourished, so did a sense of unease within Reverend James. Strange occurrences began to plague his life. Shadows seemed to move on their own, and whispers echoed in the corridors of the grand cathedral. He brushed them off as stress induced hallucinations, but the discomfort lingered. Among the congregation was Sister Grace, a devout woman known for her piety and discernment. She had been with the church since its inception and noticed the change in Reverend James. Her intuition told her something was amiss, and she began to pray fervently for guidance. One night, Sister Grace had a vivid dream. She saw Reverend James standing at a crossroad, a shadowy figure whispering in his ear. The path he was on was a dark and treacherous path leading to ruin. Awaking with a start, she knew she had to confront him. Reverend, may I speak with you? Sister Grace asked, her voice steady despite the turmoil within her. Reverend James looked at her, his eyes weary. Of course, Sister Grace. What troubles you? Hmm. I had a dream, a vision perhaps, about you, Reverend. You stand at a crossroad, and I fear the path you are on leads to destruction, she said, her eyes filled with concern. Reverend James chuckled, though there was a little humor to it. I appreciate your concern, Sister Grace, but I assure you all is well. The Lord has blessed us immensely. But at what cost, Reverend? The Lord does not dwell in riches and influence alone. There is a darkness that shadows you, she implored. Her words struck a chord in him, igniting a flicker of doubt he had buried deep within. However, he quickly dismissed it, reassuring himself that his actions were justified by the success he had achieved. As time went on, Reverend James found himself increasingly troubled. Nightmares haunted his sleep, and during the day, he was tormented by visions of fire and brimstone. Mr. B's presence loomed larger, appearing at the most unexpected moments with unsettling reminder of the agreement. You've done well, Reverend. Mr. B would say, his voice dripping with malice. Remember our bargain. The time for your favor will come. Reverend James tried to ignore him, burying himself in his work and the accolades that came with it. However, his sermons became hollow, lacking the passion that once inspired his congregation. The more he tried to fill the voice with material success, the emptier he felt. One day, as Reverend James prepared to deliver a sermon, a young woman entered the cathedral. Her name was Hamina, a woman whose life had been transformed by his early teachings. She approached him, her eyes filled with gratitude. Reverend, I wanted to thank you for changing my life. Your words gave me hope when I had none, she said. Her sincerity touched him, and for the first time in months, he felt a glimmer of his old self. But as he looked into her eyes, he saw a reflection of the man he used to be, the man who sought to serve God without ambition clouding his vision. The encounter with Amina stirred something within Reverend James. He began to question his choices he had made with the path he had taken. He realized that in his pursuit for greatness, he had lost sight of his true calling to serve and uplift those in need. Determined to break free from the shackles of his bargain, Reverend James sought the counsel of an old mentor, Pastor Emmanuel, a wise and humble man. Pastor Emmanuel had guided him during his early years in ministry. James, you must understand that true success is not measured by wealth or influence, but by the lives you touch and the love you share. Pastor Emmanuel advised, the devil preys on our weaknesses, offering us what we desire most, but at a terrible cost. Reverend James knew he had to confront Mr. B and renounce the agreement. He returned to the spot where they had first met, hoping to find the mysterious figure and end their unholy alliance. As he stood there, Mr. B appeared, his smile more sinister than ever. Ah, Reverend, I knew you'd come. Are you here to fulfill your end of the bargain? I'm here to break it, Reverend James declared, his voice firm. I renounce our agreement and all that you've offered. I will not be your pawn anymore. Mr. B laughed, a chilling voice that echoed through the night. You think you can walk away so easily? The price must be paid. Suddenly, the ground beneath Reverend James trembled, and visions of his church engulfed in fire filled his mind. He felt an overwhelming sense of dread, as if the weight of his choices was crashing down on him. But then, a voice broke through the chaos, a voice of calm and reassurance. It was Sister Grace, praying fervently for his soul. I was filled with faith and conviction, piercing the darkness surrounding him. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. She prayed, her voice steady and unwavering. The darkness began to recede, and Reverend James felt a sense of peace wash over him. He realized that true power lay not in earthly desires, but in faith and the strength of his community. With newfound resolve, he looked Mr. B in the eyes. You have no power over me. I choose to walk in the light and serve God with a pure heart. Mr. B's expression shifted, anger replacing a smug demeanor. You may have won this time, but remember, Reverend, the devil never truly loses. With that, Mr. B vanished into the shadow, leaving Reverend James standing alone but free. Returning to his church, Reverend James was a changed man. He confessed his transgression to his congregation, asking for their forgiveness and understanding. Many were shocked. but the sincerity in his words and the humility in his demeanor moved them. I strayed from the path, blinded by ambition, he admitted, his voice heavy with regret. But I stand before you now, renewed in my faith and committed to serving with integrity. The congregation responded with warmth and acceptance, rallying around their pastor as he sought to rebuild both his church and his spirit. With Sister Grace and Pastor Emmanuel by his side, Reverend James rededicated himself to restoring the core values that had once guided him. In time, the church flourished, not in grandeur but in spirit. It became a haven for the lost and weary, a place where love and compassion thrived. Reverend James found solace in knowing that he had chosen the right path, learning that true fulfillment came not from material wealth, but from the lives he touched and the faith he nurtured. God bless you.